Call to order the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Wednesday, March 20th, 2024. Start with our opening ceremonies this morning. I am on rotation for the invocation, so I'm going to share some things. So this is one of my favorite passages in the scriptures I'm going to share and then give a prayer. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Please join me in a prayer. Father in heaven, we lift up to you today the workers of this county. Lord, we pray for safety for our law enforcement officers and mindfulness for our dispatchers. Lord, we lift up to you the fire and EMS first responders, that you may bless their work and their service. We pray for our judges, that you would give them wisdom and discernment. We ask you to bless those who keep our records and keep our books, for those who keep our new buildings safe, for those who keep us prepared for all emergencies, for those who provide for our recreation. Bless those who watch over our health, those who watch over our veterans. Bless those who care for our young, our old, our vulnerable. Lord, bless all who serve this day. Grant this board your wisdom and discernment. In Christ I pray. Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Shiley, could we have the roll call, please?
Walter? Here. Seifert?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
Morris? Here. McAllister?
Here.
Jewett?
Here.
Flynn? Here. Andrews? Here. Henschel?
I am here. Next, we have approval of the minutes. We have a Board of Commissioners regular meeting of March 6th, study session of March 13th, and then the meeting from the Northwest Regional Airport Authority and Grand Traverse and Leelanau joint study session.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, a motion to approve all minutes by Jewett, support by Seifert. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Brings us to first public comment. Bonnie, would you please read the rules?
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provisions of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board may state his or her name and address. Persons may address the board on matters or issues which are relevant and germane to county government as determined by the chairperson. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, allow an additional opportunity or time to speak if determined germane and necessary to the discussion. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4 Order of Business. However, public comment may be received during the meeting when a specific agenda topic is scheduled for discussion by the board. Prior to the first public comment, the chairperson will indicate the topics on the agenda for which public comment will be accepted. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson. The board shall not comment or respond to a person who is addressing the board. Silence or non-response from the board should not be interpreted as disinterest or disagreement by the board. Please be respectful and refrain from personal or political attacks.
All right, would anyone like to address the board? Now's your time to approach the podium. Going once, going twice. Seeing none, we will move on in the agenda. Next, we have approval of the agenda.
I have an item to propose for an addition.
Okay,
Board appointments under old business or new business, either unfinished or new.
all right.
Are we talking about current, I mean, new
Specifically, you mean pavilions?
appointments or existing
I
appointments?
think there's a couple of vacancies. There's the Board of Public Works, that's an unfinished item from January meeting, February meeting, and then process.
So we've got, I know of Board of Public Works, Northern Lake CMH, and pavilions.
Yep.
And I think veterans might have one up as well.
Okay, yep.
We'll put that under 11, new business. And Mr. Alger, could you just check with the administration office, see if there's any others before we get to that item? I'm sure we got some time between now and then.
Additional vacancies?
Yeah. Just verify BPW, Northern Lakes, pavilions, and veterans, I believe are the ones that are up. If there's any more, we'll touch on that when we get there. So any objections to adding that to the agenda? Under 11, okay. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda with that addition?
So made.
Support.
Moved by Flynn, supported by Jewett. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to the consent calendar. Bonnie, could you read that, please?
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval, is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive. Number 1, Department of Health and Human Services Pavilion Board, January 2024 meeting minutes. Number 2, Administration, Cecil McNally, resignation letter from DHHS Board. Number 3, Grand Traverse Conservation District, February 2024 report. Number 4, City of Traverse City Community Update on initiatives addressing homelessness. Number 5, Long Lake Township Master Plan 2024. Number 6, ARPA status report. B, approvals. Number 1, Resource Recovery 2024 hauler licensing. Number 2, Howe Arena Section 5 roofing repair. Number 3, Civic Center restrooms remodel. Number 4, Health Deputy Medical Examiner appointment update 2024. Number 5, resolution of support for adoption of Senate Bill 662-2024. Number 6, ARPA funding reimbursement requests. Number 7, administrative review process.
Okay, would any commissioners like to remove anything from the consent calendar? Commissioner Andrews.
Item A4, B2, and B7.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, so I have the removal of items A4, City of Traverse City Community Update, the B2, Howe Arena Roof, and B7, Administrator Review Process.
Chairman, I move that we approve the consent calendar with the exception of A4, B2, and B7.
Support.
Motion by Jewett and support, who was that? Who was that, Morris?
Yes, it was.
Oh, my goodness. You're so quiet. All right. We have a motion and second. Any further discussion on the consent calendar? Roll call vote, please, Bonnie.
Seifert,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
McAllister,
Yes.
Hewitt,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Andrews,
Yes.
Walter,
Yes.
Henschel.
Yes, motion carries. Consent calendar is passed. Brings us to item 7, special orders of business. Item A, public hearing regarding potential submission of a Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant application to be used for installation of the Boardman-Ottawa Crossing Bridge at the Natural Education Reserve. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to join you here today. My name is John Chase. I'm the Parks Director for Grand Traverse County, and with me is Kofi Pachavi.
Morning, Kofi.
Make sure I pronounce that correctly. He's Executive Director for the Grand Traverse Conservation District. So we are here to talk about the Boardman Ottaway Crossing Bridge. The Grand Traverse Conservation District brought this item to us. We could, how do I wait for it to come up on the screen here? There we go. Grand Traverse Conservation District brought the idea of a Boardman Ottaway Crossing Bridge to our Parks Commission in 2021. This is a crossing that would allow people to be able to access the other side of the Boardman River from the Boardman River Nature Center. The Parks Commission supported this idea and because of its broad community benefit, wrote a letter of support in 2022 for the bridge. The Grand Traverse Conservation District has been fundraising for the bridge since 2021, and they've accumulated about $200,000 to date through a combination of private support and grant funding. The engineering for the project has largely been completed. There's one view and then a second view here. Engineering has been largely completed, and the total construction cost is anticipated to be approximately $1 million. Our new DNR recreation plan, which you had approved back in January, gives us the ability to apply for a number of grants through the Michigan Natural Resources, or through Michigan DNR. This is one of those, and we are requesting the opportunity to apply for a $400,000 Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant with a match of $400,000 that would be provided through the Grand Traverse Conservation District. They would also write that grant as well as provide that match funding. So we've shown you the two views of the bridge here and just a third view of the bridge, and these are in your packet as well. Third view, not necessarily the bridge itself, but just to show you where this is located. So if you're familiar with the Nature Center and the former Sabin Dam, this is actually going in where the former Sabin Dam would have crossed.
Okay. Commissioner, questions? I have a question. I always love seeing new trails and infrastructure going in. The question I always have to ask, and quite often get a blank stare, is in perpetuity, what does it cost to maintain this item?
The bridge we're proposing is the same one we have at the Brown Bridge Quiet area now. And the material they use to build those bridges are very sturdy, steel. And the only
Use the mic if you could. People watching at home.
The only maintenance area that may be needed is, sand work or dirt work on the abutments, because it's concrete and steel pretty much. So they are pretty sturdy and require really little maintenance. And Brown Bridge has been, in place for those many years. We've never had to do anything to it. So in terms of maintenance, it's very low.
Okay.
Moving forward.
Okay. Commissioner, questions?
Move to approve.
Well, isn't this the public hearing?
hearing.
This is the public hearing, and there's an action item under departmental items for
That's correct.
action. So we're just having a public hearing right now.
So we just wanted to give the opportunity for you to understand,
All right.
for the public to understand this particular project.
Now, there's
Okay.
a resolution here. I don't understand then.
So the first step, because of the nature of the trust fund grant, is that we have a public hearing, allow the public an opportunity to weigh in on the project. And then I think if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, we will vote to approve the submission. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So we'll start with the public hearing portion, and then we'll pick up your motion, Commissioner Nelson. Love your ambition. All right. So with that, we will open the public hearing at 9:14 a.m. To see if the public would like to weigh in on this. So we're open for public comment. Please approach the podium and express your comments. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing at 9:15 and bring it back to the board.
And we do have a second public hearing for another
okay.
grant, so if you wanted to cover both of those.
Go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead. Let's.
Thank you. So our second public hearing is, we've been working with TART. So Chris Cushman is here with TART. He's the Director of Planning. I just want to make sure I get that right as well. TART commissioned a plan in 2023 to do a study for the Vasa Trailhead Park. And the Parks Commission adopted that plan as the vision for the park. And we've given an overhead view here of what that looks like. And essentially what we're doing with that park is taking the opportunity to grade and pave the parking lot, work on the stormwater retention in the parking lot, and then create a number of placemaking features throughout the property. So the overhead view, we moved down to looking at the conceptual rendering here of the warming hut that is currently in place, and the additional placemaking features that you see with the folks sitting along the side here. There's a large area in that park that is basically just dead space. It's not really used right now. So this would be a part of that overall expansion. And then the second piece here is coming off that parking lot, looking into the bike park that's off to the right of this picture, adding kiosks and adding additional trails that would take you to the Vasa Trail itself. And then looking at the parking lot here from a slightly different view, looking again at the warming hut, but seeing an actual parking lot here. If you've been to that particular park, you've probably recognized that the park does slant quite a bit to the north, and anytime we have a good rain, all the material runs down to the other end of the park. So we end up losing that material, having to regrade that, a number of puddles and things in the way. And so we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to make a better property for folks. So the Parks Commission, as I mentioned, adopted that plan as the vision for the park's future, and we are seeking your authorization to apply for a recreation passport grant in the amount of $150,000. This request is from a different pool of funds that within the state and does not compete with the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant request that we had just made a moment ago. And this request, as well as the previous one, have also been accepted and recommended by the Parks Commission. TART would write the grant and provide the matching funds to cover 25% of the project cost. And just for point of reference, in the resolution that we have, we would just ask that we make a small modification to the resolution, and the resolution refers to a specific $37,500 match. It would actually be 25% of the project cost, so we want to make sure that we reflect that accurately. But this project would allow engineering to begin and allow us to undertake the foundation of the project, which is to begin working on the regrading and the paving of the parking lot and managing stormwater retention. So the total project cost here is estimated at $201,000.
All right, so we'll open the public hearing for that DNR Trust Fund grant at 9:17 a.m. This is regarding the Vasa Trailhead Park. Would any members of the public like to address this issue? Now's your opportunity. Seeing none, we will close that public hearing at 9:18.
I'll amend my motion to include both if you want to hand it that way, Mr. Chair.
Oh, actually, we have items removed from the consent calendar,
Oh, we still can't.
and then we'll circle back to these two items.
Messing with your mojo.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
trying to get her going.
you know, I've always wondered why we've always done it that way, but this is, it's in our board rules that this is the order of operations, so we'll follow
We could
that.
suspend our rules,
We could.
let these people go.
Motion to suspend the rules so we can take up item 9, departmental items,
A and B?
A and B.
Second.
All right.
Or did you second?
I did.
Motion and second to suspend the rules and take these up in the order they're here. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll take on item 9A, DNR Trust Fund Application, Boardman Ottawa Crossing. Commissioner Nelson?
I'll make the motion again to accept item 9A, the DNR grant application for the Boardman Ottaway Crossing Bridge at the Natural Education Reserve.
Support.
All right. No, a minute ago you said A and B, so
Well,
if you want to take them one at a time, that's fine with me.
we'll do it
I'm
one
just-
at a time.
Okay.
Slow me down, I'm slowing you down.
All right. Motion by Nelson, support by Jewett to approve 9A as presented. Any further discussion? Commissioner Flynn?
Just want to say I'm very excited about this project as in District 2, and when I went on a tour with Mr. Chase, it really will connect the river well. I'm really excited about it.
Okay. Commissioner Andrews?
Just a question. I understand it's a $1 million project. It's a $400,000 grant. There's a $600,000 gap. Can you tell us what your plan is to fill the gap? And my second question, I'll just, timeline for the project?
Okay, so I can address the first part of that. I'll have Kofi address the second part for you here. So it is a $400,000 grant request with a $400,000 match, which would bring us to $800,000, leaving about a $200,000 gap.
Right, I get that, but where does the match come from? And
Yep, so the match would come from fundraising through the Grand Traverse Conservation District. So we would not
And-
provide that. And there is still a gap at that point, but it's a whole lot easier to raise that gap when you've got $800,000 than it is to raise that. Or
I guess my question is, do we have the $400,000 match?
we do not have that match in hand at this time. So they've got about $200,000 of the match. Is that correct?
Right. So very good question. As we're writing this grant, we have several concurrent grants currently going out. And actually, I reached out to some of the commissioners about some of the other grants that need support. And, Commissioner Flynn, thank you for your letter of support. So we have several grants that we are already writing to raise the for. And this grant is going to help the other ones that we have. But we are not concerned about raising those $400,000.
Okay, so you can leverage this 400 with other grants. It's not required to be private donations or anything like that?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
And we do not have to have the match all in hand at the time the application goes in.
Great. Timeline?
So yesterday,
Right?
as John said, we started working on this project since 2021. And we are at a point now where the project is shovel ready. So we are hoping to start construction toward the end of 24 or beginning of 25.
I share Commissioner Flynn's enthusiasm for this project, so thank you.
Any other commissioner comments, questions?
If I may,
Yeah, go ahead.
John and Kofi, this is reestablishing a connection, correct?
Correct.
To be clear on that when the dam was removed, there was an existing pathway that crossed the river. Wanted the public to know that.
Correct. And there's also more pathway on the other side of the river now than there was previously. There's also the Great Lakes Incubator Farm, which this would connect the Nature Center to the Great Lakes Incubator Farm and allow students to move between those different locations.
I'll just, again, voice my support and appreciation for you bringing state dollars to Grand Traverse County for recreation and for all the work you do to promote volunteerism in our community. That's very important. So thank you both. Okay, so we've got a motion in support. Any further discussion? This, again, is for 9A. All right, roll call vote, please, Bonnie.
Nelson?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
McAllister?
Yes.
Hewitt?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Andrews?
Yes?
Walter?
Yes.
Seifert?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes. Motion carries.
Make a motion that we accept the DNR grant application for the Vasa Trailhead Park.
Second.
Motion by Nelson, support by Seifert. Further discussion? Roll call,
If I may, I
yes,
just
on
want to
the
make
ad-
sure that we have the reminder that we need to revise the resolution
Oh,
to reflect
that's right.
25% of the project cost.
I'm going to get with you.
Nelson and Seifert, that understood?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, then we'll have a roll call vote when you're ready, Bonnie.
Morris?
Yes.
McAllister?
Yes.
Hewitt?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Andrews?
Yes?
Walter?
Yes.
Seifert?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your support.
Keep up the good work, John.
Thank you.
Yep. So now we are on items removed from the consent calendar. This is item 8 in the agenda. We'll take them in order they appeared on the agenda, consent calendar. Item A4, City of Traverse City Community Update on Initiatives Addressing Homelessness. Commissioner Andrews.
Yeah, thank you. So as we can, I'm sure all remember, on February 7th, this board passed a motion to have a joint study session with the Safe Harbor and Northwest Michigan Coalition to End Homelessness. The context or the motivation for that was the joint resolution of collaboration that the parties, that's the city, the county, and those organizations were working towards. And I think we all understand at this point that that effort has basically not progressed to a point where it needed to move forward. We have a memo from the city indicating some efforts that are underway at the city level to progress, to contemplate the fact that Safe Harbor will be closing very soon, and we anticipate that the Pines will become the de facto home for the 80 or so people who are presently sleeping overnight at Safe Harbor. My question is, what is this board's role, and what is our obligation, considering there are no bathrooms and sinks and public sanitation provisions at the Pines, and the county health department is responsible for environmental health in our community. Kids Creek is an impaired water body. These are bathrooms that are going in on the banks of Kids Creek. What are we going to do about that as a county commission? What is our health department's response to that? What is our obligation, if any? I think we have an obligation, and I'd like to have a discussion as a board, at least to consider, should we have a discussion? We plan to have a study session on the topic, and we haven't. The situation did not go away, even though the joint resolution didn't move forward. So in light of the fact that the city has raised this as a likely situation that's coming at us, and given the county's public health responsibility in the community, I'd just like to pose that for the will of the board for discussion.
Commissioner Walter.
This isn't a solution to it, but at our last study session, we did request to invite Ashley Halliday to come, because that MOU discussion is not coming to us. We did make a request to administration to invite her to come to talk about overall efforts from the Coalition to End Homelessness, to come to make a presentation to the county and discuss our role in their kind of ecosystem of organizations and solutions. So we did have that discussion at the last meeting, and I don't know if you have an update on that.
I do. She will be here on May 1st.
So I appreciate that, but I think the Coalition to End Homelessness is tackling the long-term housing situation in our community, particularly for chronic homeless, people who are chronically homeless. And in the meanwhile, we have a campsite going in next to Kids Creek in about a month. And so to me, while I appreciate that that is an important thing for us to be moving forward, I think there is a public health component to what's happening at the campsite that warrants a conversation, and perhaps a further discussion with our health department, with our public health department, to understand what those concerns are. Do we need to be installing porta potties at Kids Creek? It's a fair question. I mean, I think these are things that are within our purview and a concern that are coming at us soon.
And the city has done that. So it's not like that's a new concept. And I know that the city has installed them in the past and they've been destroyed. So I know the city, I don't know where they are now on wanting to install new facilities. I haven't heard, it wasn't really in there. But that is not probably the best solution if that's going to happen again.
I don't know what the best solution is,
I
which
don't
is
either.
why I think we should have a discussion about that. And I'd like to hear from if the city has plans to address the sanitation components of the situation, at a bare minimum, right? Like, this is the sort of emergent situation. It's not a long-term solution, but what is our responsibility as the entity that oversees public health, if nothing else?
Well, and there was another fire today at the Pines. There was one less than a week ago-ish. Second one in 10 days anyway, probably, that the city also has dealt with, but I haven't had an update from this morning on that piece of it, too.
So maybe the question for administration is, what can we do to coordinate, to understand what the city's plan for the summer is in terms of the public safety and the public health aspects of the Pines? And what are they thinking? Can they give us that information? And have they engaged with our public health department in terms of their concerns, if they have any, from an environmental and a sanitation perspective?
I think it's first most important to understand our role. We don't have purview over the city. They're a separate, I guess, part of the state. We're all component units of state government. The city is its own component unit. We do have overlapping duties and responsibilities. So I think the first question is for our health department to let us know what is our role in this situation, and then, you know, continue that discussion with the city as to how we could help as the county health department. We're a single county health department, so we are the Board of Health. So what is our role? What can we do in the situation? I don't want the city to think we're trying to enforce on them or step on their toes, because they are the local unit of government. We're here to support them.
I don't disagree. I think that's a starting point, is having an understanding as to what our obligations and responsibilities are at a minimum with respect to this area, acknowledging there's overlapping, but we're the only health department. The city obviously doesn't have one. So, and we're on the front end of it, so it seems like having a discussion ahead of Safe Harbor's closure is useful instead of after, you know, if there are things that can be put in place and plan ahead.
Mr. Alger?
I do have context. The health department is aware of the situation, and I believe they've already been on site in the Pines inspecting potential locations and potential issues related to Kids Creek, so they're aware of that. We can continue that effort. I've been in contact with Manager Vogel several times on this matter, and they are going to continue the efforts. I know that she intends to have a more of a conversation with those stakeholders involved to walk through this process and hopefully find a solution that all can be supportive of. I've also spoken with Sakura Takano and Dave Mengabeer. They are creating some type of a coalition to address this as well, and we have been invited to be part of that discussion, and that, I think, is in April, at some point in time, mid-April, that will kick off. So that's context. We aren't just waiting. We are trying to figure out who's doing what and what is the role of the county, and we are happy to assist in any way.
Who
Commissioner
who would be
Nelson?
participating?
With which?
With the collaboration with the Rotary and Community Foundation.
There's 12 people that have been invited, and 12 organizations, I should say, have been invited. We are one of them. Their intent is to keep it small initially so that they can try to determine who else needs to be at that table. The city's effort is more expansive. I think that Ms. Vogel is intending on including neighborhood residents and all providers within that conversation.
Commissioner Nelson?
Yeah, that's what I was going to, Mr. Alger covered a lot of what I was going to talk about. He has been working with the city manager. Our departments are working and their agency responsibilities from our sheriff's department, the health department. And one of the things he said there, that this coalition they're putting together, they want to keep it small at this point. I think we let the professionals do their job, let them get involved. They can come to us when they're looking for specific needs, but getting 9 politicians jumping on board of this is not helping the homeless. It's going to make it worse. So let's let the professionals do their job. They can come to us with requests, specific requests or more general requests, but we can stand by and be available with the resources that maybe we can offer. But let's not wade into a situation with a match and a can of gas.
Commissioner Andrews?
Yeah, thank you for that. I do acknowledge that an effort to keep us not include us with a small group of people was highly unsuccessful in addressing the situation recently. So I think there is an opportunity to have a constant information and updates and context about the situation. I don't think it is helpful in the long run for us to have no information and then to be frankly presented with something that wasn't even added to an agenda item unless, except through work that, through a potential study session. So I resist the idea of keeping us out of the context. I think we have staff. I think this is an issue of public health, public safety, public concern, public interest, and I don't support us being approached at the end of the conversation with a request. I think that's not useful. I think we need to be updated as we go.
Okay, so we need a motion to receive and file A4.
So made.
Or
Motion by Andrews, supported by Jewett. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Alger, and I look forward to hearing more on that topic. Next, B2, this is the Howe Arena Section 5 roofing repair. Commissioner Andrews.
Yeah, thank you. I understand from the packet that Area 5 on the Howe Arena, it's on the very, very last page of the agenda, of the packet item. There's a map, and it looks to me like B5 is just the front area over the front door, is that right?
It's a combination. There's near the front area, but where the roof steps up to go over where the workout room is, and right up next to the Howe Arena.
And this proposal, and as I understand it, Area 5 is about 3,200 square feet per the documents in the...
Yes, ma'am.
And I understand that for Area 5, Summit was the lowest bidder, is that correct?
Yes, and they are local.
Yeah, and I understand that the budget for this item was $700,000, is that right?
I'd have to go back on the full budget, yes.
That
And
was
we're
in the-
looking at, I think, $109,000 for theirs.
109,270.
Yeah, so I guess I'm not quite squaring
Thank you.
the 109,000 with the additions of the second page of the packet, which has the bid tabulation. And that suggests that there's actually 3 different parts to the bid. There was a base and then 2 additional parts. Is that right?
We were looking at a number of different areas to do when we did the roof inspection. Area 5 has a failed roof material, and the company that did that a number of years ago is bankrupt. We have no way to go back on that. So we decided to just go with the more reasonable, since the other roof areas, there's 8 total, are intact and working well. This is the one where we're having consistent leaks, and when you walk on it, the roof material actually cracks and breaks like a potato chip. So that's why we're trying to put forth this and then come up with every year, come up with a different section as they go bad. So we're not looking at a $700,000 hit all at once. And, if we don't need to, with some of the other areas, the next one will be area, area 4 over the locker rooms where we had just put in new HVAC units on top. That one's still in good shape, but it is wearing, and we were thinking that's going to be our next unit to come up.
And so only Area 5 is the subject of this contract, even though the bids went out for areas 4, 5, and 6, is that right?
Yes, yes.
And then
we
you-
decided for the CIP just to go with Area 5 because that's the one that has failed, that is having leaks going into part of the Howe Arena as well as the lobby section of the Civic Center.
Okay, I guess the packet information is really, really confusing because it doesn't actually say that. It actually says that this is a bid packet for a house demolition. Grand Traverse County is requesting bids for demo of an existing house and return land to green space. I'm reading page 5 of the bid packet. So
Couple years ago.
overall, I found this packet to be very confusing because the areas weren't well described. It wasn't, when I look at the bid tabulation, it looks like Summit is actually the highest overall for the bid totals. It looked like there was a confusion as to what the difference between base, Section 4, and Section 5 is. And so I found this very unhelpful in trying to understand what this project really is.
We'll clean that up for next project.
Okay, so in a year, are we looking at bids, Sections 4 and 6?
It'll be Section 4. Approximately, whatever the bid says on there for 4, I would add another 8 to 10% for next year, just due to the rising costs of everything.
Okay, and there's a reason we're not doing them all at the same time?
Yes, the limited funds for CIP, for the capital improvement fund itself.
It looked like we had $700,000 dedicated for this project.
That's what, if we did everything, that's what we were looking at, about the amounts to go into it. But when we went through and reviewed the capital improvement project, we pared a lot of those costs down to make it more manageable, to get us under a $1.5 million cap for the actual capital improvement project and be able to do different areas and different things. Part of that is the Civic Center restrooms that you just approved.
And I guess I'm confused how, I mean, the bid tabulation indicates this project is significantly under budget overall. It doesn't give us any information that tells us how, you know, the component parts of the 700,000. So we can't really evaluate how this 100,000 is going to impact our budget. We have a $700,000 line item. Any and all of these collectively is well within that. It doesn't, we can't tell if we're going to come in under budget or over budget or where we're at on this roof repair. So
Currently, the $109,000 is within budget of what we're going to be doing for the current capital improvement plan.
where is that? Where is, what is, the only item in the budget in this packet that says anything about what the budget is says 700,000 for 20,000 square feet of roof. And I can't tell how much roof is being repaired. And you know, it looks like you said 3,200 square feet for Area 5. So I just can't tell if this is within budget or, I mean, yes, it's within budget because the budget includes a line item for 6 times as much as this proposal. So, you know, how are we going to ascertain if we're within, you know, the overall budget for this part of the project?
I do not have that with me to show what the capital improvement budget is, but it is in the actual capital improvement budget that was approved this last fall.
It would be helpful to have that information in the packet. We've got information about 7 and 8, which are obviously fine. We've got information about a total project of $700,000 for a 2,000 square foot of roofing. So I found this frustrating to try to make sure that this was the way forward, especially considering while Summit is the lowest for Area 5, it's the highest overall for the project.
So that section 4, you said is the section, I think you referenced 4, is a section that you're going to put off to next year, but it's going to cost us 8 to 10% more if we wait till next year?
I'm estimating.
Yeah.
Just by what current building
Right.
costs are.
Right.
And since
So-
it's not leaking and it's in good shape, that's why I haven't included that. I'm just trying to go with what is failed or in a failing condition.
But is it next year you anticipate it's going to be leaking?
Yes.
So what kind of maintenance costs are we going to incur in the meantime, once it starts leaking and causing problems?
Well, maintenance costs, since it is a material roof, it is in good shape. And it's just that we want to try to keeping up on the maintenance of it so it doesn't leak.
Right, so what kind of maintenance costs are we going to incur before we replace that section?
Just cleaning. We'll go up there with a power washer and wash the roof up and make sure that all the areas are in good shape.
So the question I have is that we could do all 3 sections of the roof for $417,000 if under the.
Oh, boy. We're in recess. just a few moments here. Okay, we're going to call back to order the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Wednesday, March 20th, 2024. Back from a recess. Our thoughts and prayers are with facilities the manager, Joe Barry. Looks like he's on his way to get some medical help there.
Amen.
So we are on item B2. During the recess, I did have a conversation with the administrator to Commissioner Andrews and Walters Point. There may be some savings in doing multiple sections of that roof at once, so he's asked that we could postpone this item so he could look into that further. The deployment costs, I know I've talked to the road commission, getting people on site is one of the biggest costs. So with a roofing project, that's likely the case, so he's going to look into that. So would entertain a motion to postpone that item.
So moved.
Second.
And we have time with this to wait a couple?
Yeah, I believe so. We also have some wiggle room in that CIP. There's about $400,000 that is uncommitted. So I talked to Mr. Chase briefly, and I will confirm with Mr. Berry. I think that we should probably look at a bid for the entire project to see if there's efficiencies there.
It looks like that's what the bid was. Looking at page 26 of the packet, it looked like it was a three-part bid that did a component.
Three sections.
Three sections. So maybe it's already been done that way, and it's just a matter of representing the information, or maybe.
Okay, so I have a motion by Andrews and support by Seifert to postpone this item. Mr. Alger will give you leeway on the timing of that, what will make sense, but remember, we're protecting our assets from a leaky roof. So,
Thanks, sir.
any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Brings us to item B7, Administrator Review Process. Commissioner Andrews.
Yeah, thank you. I just had a clarifying question. The motion, sorry, let me orient here. The discussion was about a two-part component, as I understood it. I'm looking at page 3 of the packet. It says, the motion to recommend to the full board to direct staff to solicit an anonymous review from the administrator's direct report staff to be completed by April 5th, at which time the results will be shared with the board. And this is the part I'm questioning or asking for clarification, as well as a survey to be completed by April 22nd. That idea of a survey to be completed by April 22nd includes who's surveying who?
That's just to go back to the board. The way the process has been in the past is that the Board of Commissioners reviews the administrator. The three-member ad hoc committee, we had a meeting. We brought in Donna Kinsey, the HR director, for some assistance. We decided that we wanted to go an additional request out to the direct reports to Mr. Alger so that they could also weigh in, because there's a much different relationship with them than there is with us. So that the intent is that we get the results back from the direct reports here as board members, and then we are going to fill out the survey that we've filled out in the past. That's the intent.
To answer your question, I read it as the results will be shared with the board as well as a survey will be shared with the board that we complete by 22nd. I think it's just kind of muddled together.
So the survey is.
What sort
for
of
us.
questions were you discussing that would be on the survey?
For
The ones for the direct reports,
Yeah.
the questions are on that
They're in
second
there.
Yeah.
page there, number 1 through 5.
Okay. I have a much smaller staff, obviously, but one question I like to ask people who work for me or for someone who works for me is, do you feel like you have the tools you need to do the job? Do you feel like you have the training you need to do the job? How can I support you better? I find that a very useful, because it's both feedback, but it's useful, it's actionable feedback. So I wonder if we might consider something along those lines to include is, what could we do to support you better in doing your job?
Well, that's not well, that would be maybe for Mr. Elger, right? But these questions are for those who report to him.
No, but I understand what you're asking is, if I'm reporting to somebody, you're asking, is there something that you can do for me to help me do my job for you?
Yeah, because you never want it to be like a popularity contest.
I think it's a good question. Our intent was to not have this be a long survey. We want to get a good response as opposed to something that's going to take 45 minutes. So we try to keep it to 5. I would ask for the wishes of the board. Do you want to replace one of these questions? Do you want to have that discussion? Or do you want to add a question to it?
Commissioner Seifert?
I actually like your question. Well, does he provide the training and the tools to get the job done? Or so, I mean, Commissioner Walter said, but it's a question for Mr. Elger. Why isn't it a question for the people that work underneath Mr. Elger? I mean, he's a leadership role. He's supposed to be like, this needs to get done. Well, yeah, is he giving you the tools, the opportunity to ask for the things that he needs? I think it's a viable question. Because, I mean, that would be, we'd expect to say, are we giving you the tools that you need to be successful in your job? That you'd filter all the way down.
Is that not kind of, sorry,
Go ahead, Commissioner Flynn.
part of number 3 and responsive to the team's needs? Would that be understood in that, or the word tools? Needs, tools, and questions?
Sounds a little wordsmithy.
Yeah, we could
Something
reword
to,
that
like,
question, or
reword that question to include.
I would like, Commissioner Walter, did you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I just want to clarify, I don't disagree that that's an important thing to ask people. And it just made me think of, aside from this, what other survey are our staff as a whole getting to that end? Because I completely agree, that's a great question to ask people. Do you have the tools and resources you need to be effective at your job? And I don't know if Donna was here, but that's I think a separate question, which is important, which maybe we can have another discussion on. What is the process like for getting feedback from staff outside of the administrator's review process? What does that look like? What kind of surveys and follow-up are out there? I know we talked about something last year, but I don't know if anything else. Is it annual? Is it every several years? Do people get that? So if we can kind of set that aside for another discussion, that piece of it, I think that would be helpful.
Well, as our ad hoc, we do it every year and have his employees give him their own summation of his job, what he does, and reviews him to come to us for the survey.
Right.
No, this is the first time that has happened. That's why I specifically asked how we could improve the process would be to ask his direct reports to bring us information. This hasn't happened in the past.
No, that's why when we had the ad hoc, we wanted to put that in there so his people that he oversees.
Right, to Commissioner Walter's point, I think the direct report could also ask the survey of their staff, are they getting the tools that they need? So he knows that they know that the whole department's getting them.
All right. Commissioner Jewett's next.
Yeah, I would think when we're talking about asking department heads or managers if they have the tools that they need, I don't know that that would really be a part of the administrator's review, because he's not in full control of them having the tools or resources they need. That's really ultimately up to us. It's a great question or anything. I mean, we're going to hear from some that say they don't have the tools they need, but it may not be the tools that they want tools. It may not be that what their wants are, their turn them into needs, I guess what I'm saying. So, although I think that's maybe good for another survey, I don't think it's appropriate to ask department heads and managers if they have the tools that they need, because our administrator does not have direct control over that.
Commissioner Nelson?
no, I withdraw I was going to ask another question, but.
No, I'm done, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm fine.
Commissioner Andrews?
So I think this is good progress. I like that these are mostly open-ended questions. I think I anticipate that there's a way to do this anonymously. so that people could feel that they can be honest.
Yeah, well, there's a process to have it come back anonymously.
Okay. I mean, I see that's part of the plan. What, the survey of things we're going to answer, maybe, is that where we ask? Do we include your question in our survey? I don't remember off the top of my head and what the survey, our survey, looks like, and should-
Nor like a self-review. I don't know what that looks like either.
Right.
There's not a self-review built into this currently.
Well, that was a suggestion that I made. I don't know where the ad hoc landed on that.
We chose not to go with that based on several discussions, including recommendation from HR.
HR said we shouldn't do that?
They didn't say that we shouldn't do it, no, based on the conversation we had.
The conversation said that at time of the ad hoc, he would give a in-person self-review, I believe is what you said, that you'd rather discuss it
Yeah.
in front of us.
Well, we could have a closed session if I chose to have a closed session. And what I think what we characterized at that meeting was, I have a relationship with each individual commissioner and collectively, and if I was going to have a self-review, I would prefer to have that individually with commissioners or together, so that we can walk through that discussion together versus a self-review and not having any real guidance on how to provide that self-review. What do you want to hear about? So that was my comment to the ad hoc.
We chose to honor that request as a reasonable request.
So does that mean there's three parts to the review? There's a direct report survey, there's a survey of county commissioners, and then there's a one-on-one interaction between the commissioners and the...
The one-on-one is not it's not an obligatory or a mandatory thing that each of us are required to sit with them. That's on a case-by-case choice. If you want to sit down and speak with him, it helps him, and I think that's something that many of us do throughout the year. Not just one-on-one, but it always is good to have a purpose to that conversation.
Probably every commissioner gets at least some time one-on-one with Mr. Alger, just stopping up in the office, and if it's just talking about the weather, we've got a minute of his time. But when we have concerns, we know we can go to him, and that's a great policy.
And I think sitting down and asking that question after this process, I think would be helpful to Mr. Alger. If we were to do that, I think having that be a purposeful thing over the next few months would be helpful.
I'll add that I do commend this board because nobody here thinks they're his boss. This board collectively is. We do a great job of that, and I really appreciate that.
So so I understand what questions there are for number one, this direct report, and I think I'm fine with them. I understand if we want to engage with him directly, we do that. I'm not quite sure what the survey questions are that go to the county commission. Is that just a repeat of what we did last year? Is that the plan?
We're sent out, let me look them up
Repeat
here.
what we did last year, same as 2023.
Yeah.
Okay.
But now we have more information, as I had said in the ad hoc, that as new commissioners last year, with that survey coming out, we had, 2 months under our belt?
And was that anonymous? I don't,
No, it
No,
can't
it
be.
can't
No,
be.
it's not
Yes,
anonymous.
okay.
And we can tweak those questions, or we can change that whole survey up that comes to us if we want,
Well, I was thinking
That's
the
what
ad
we've used
hoc
for the
was gonna-
last 2 or 3 years, but that was the previous board that came up with those questions. So, I mean, every time we see a new board or things change, we can change that survey, so.
Could we put that in, distribute it? Could you send us what we did last year so that we can all see it? And if
Yeah,
anybody
I'm
has...
just quickly looking down my email to see if I have that. I don't want to.
I was just looking at from last year, and the whole list is there, but,
Okay, do you remember when that was?
We can get that sent out
well,
to you.
let me go
I'll
back.
I'll get
Maybe
that
just
sent out.
Yeah, that'd be great, thank
I'll
you.
write that
I can go
down
back
right
to
now.
my-
That's fine.
Lisa up in admin could send that out.
That was
to us all.
April, well, the survey went out on March 18th, and then it was, we had the results for April 3rd of last year.
I'll make sure they get sent out. But we didn't make any changes to those.
Okay, that's fine.
Actually, we looked at them, we reviewed them, and They're good questions. We felt they were good. We didn't have any feedback from the administrator or from anyone else that we should change those, so we did not.
And there's room for comment to go in each box, so that if there's something you want to follow up with or, comment on.
Well, I think we've chewed on this pretty good. Is there a motion to approve B7?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Jewett, supported by Flynn, to approve as presented. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Anything else on the administrative review process?
I just want to thank Donna Kinsey for her assistance with that, as well as Lisa, who was a big help, made us efficient. We were able to do it in one meeting.
Yep, so now we're on 9C. This is the discussion of potential wake boat ordinance on Silver Lake. I will say at break, our legal counsel asked that we not vote on this today, give him a chance to review it, but we will absolutely accept the presentation that's been offered today. So whose item was this?
Mine.
It was, Kelly?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, I believe it was 2 weeks ago tomorrow, I met with Tim Brock here, and then Garfield Township Supervisor Korn, and Blair Township Supervisor Blonshine, and the other guy was named Denny, I don't remember.
Yeah, Denny Bogard.
All right, yeah, but anyway, they wanted to talk to see how to get on the agenda to talk about a potential wakeboard ordinance, or some of the some of the things that they've seen out there that wake boats are doing or not doing and stuff like that. So ultimately, that was I'm kind of the ticket for them to get on the ballot or on the agenda. It was so I told them that we'd gladly have them here to present and talk to us and go from there.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Tim Brock. I'm the Township Liaison with the Silver Lake Improvement Association on Silver Lake. I'm here pretty much in the spirit of County Ordinance, Watercraft Ordinance number 2, along that same lines. Here to discuss wake boats and their impact on Silver Lake. Silver Lake is a beautiful yet very busy lake given its proximity to Traverse City. And as such, there's a number of competing uses. I mean, people use this lake for fishing, boating, water skiing, wake surfing, kayaking, on and on it goes, paddleboarding, swimming. And we have 4 local marinas that also use Silver Lake for their test drives and testing of their wake boats and other boats that they sell. The mission of Silver Lake Improvement Association is to promote the improvement and preservation of Silver Lake and its environs for the quality of life for its riparians. And as such, we feel that it's important to bring up issues from time to time that would help to improve the quality of the water, the quality of the lake. We're seeking an ordinance that would regulate areas in which wake and surfing boats can operate in the loaded mode while minimizing the deleterious effects of, that can occur as a result of wake boating. We are not looking in any way, shape, or form to ban wake boats from Silver Lake or any other lake. That's really important because there are areas in our lake that would be very suitable for wake boats, and we encourage people to use them in those areas. The effects of wake boats can include shoreline erosion, sediment resuspension, disruption of aquatic vegetation and fish spawning areas, and spread of invasive aquatic species, either through transport to the lake, through improperly drained ballast from these boats, or also the downthrust that occurs from the propulsion of the boats can shred Eurasian milfoil and cause it to spread. We've had, for a number of years, a special assessment district around Silver Lake in both Blair and Garfield Townships, in which we're trying to minimize, I don't think we'll ever eradicate Eurasian milfoil, but we are trying to minimize that. And Eurasian milfoil is one of those plants that when it breaks, every little broken piece will reroot itself and spread. I have available a 6-minute video that was, I think it was included with your packet, or at least a link to it. I can bring it up, but unfortunately, a lot of times when you do that, if I bring my computer up, it might be clunky and disrupt the meeting, so I'll leave that to the commissioners if you want me to present that 6-minute video, or maybe one of the commissioners might have that up on one of their tablets that they could pull it up and broadcast it without me
We're
having
not
to-
that good. Our administrator might be.
Video attached?
Well, it's a hyperlink in the email that I sent to Commissioner
Yeah,
Jewett.
where it says wake boat video there.
Is that the desire of the board?
If you can play it.
IT professional.
Throwing surprises at you.
Our IT director says never do a live demonstration.
Well, it's not really live.
Well, I will review it first to make sure that it's an appropriate video. 1 second.
Loaded with lake water ballast, use a large, powerful engine to push the boat's stern down, creating a wake. While there is no doubt that the powerful wakes pose safety risks to other lake users, a new, troublesome impact is coming to light. Ecological damage to the bottom of lakes, potentially impacting water quality and fisheries for years to come. Big Cedar Lake in Washington County, Wisconsin, is a natural, spring-fed lake with many glacial features. It's also where a local resident started to notice and document serious changes in the lake bottom in recent years. What you'll see in this video is the unseen damage we believe is being caused by wake surfing. The main wake, or waves, are divergent waves, meaning they move away from the boat. For wake surfing, these waves are bigger, travel farther, and can damage shorelines, docks, and piers, and pose danger to other lake users. What is harder to see is the downward prop wash, which extends 20 feet or more below the surface, destroying fish habitat and nests, while at the same time stirring up long, dormant sediment containing phosphorus and, in some cases, heavy metals and harmful chemicals. Watch the wake boat as it moves from deeper water up onto a 6-foot deep bottom plateau. The downward prop wash is so strong that it creates a tornadic effect on the bottom, lasting minutes after the boat passes over the area. The bubbling sediment continues to churn. While wake surfers insist that they only operate their boats in deep water, unfortunately, many times they are operating in shallower spots of a lake or ride over shallower underwater reefs or structures. So how is this impacting the underwater ecosystem? This is a thriving, deep weed bed on Big Cedar Lake from the summer of 2014. The chain of life is evident as fish large and small thrive in the aquatic vegetation. These deep weed beds hold the key to the aquatic ecosystem. It's where minnow schools hide and big muskie and northern pike prowl. Sadly, many of these deep weed beds on Big Cedar Lake are now gone. This is the same area from the summer of 2023, now a barren moonscape. The question is, what will happen to our fisheries in the years ahead as vital habitat is lost? Wake surfers insist they are not the cause, and maybe other factors perhaps contributed to the loss of this habitat. But while fishing and ski boats were used extensively on Big Cedar Lake for decades before 2014, the one thing that has changed has been the start of wake surfing. While other boats certainly do impact the environment, let's compare what happens to the same exact bottom area of Big Cedar Lake when a wake surfer passes over it versus a typical water ski boat. We can see how the downward prop wash is destroying the bottom, where it appears all the sediment was completely blasted off, stripping the bottom down to mud. Can any vegetation or fish nests survive even 1 or 2 inadvertent passes like this? an education program for wake boat operators won't solve the problem. A few passes from 1 or 2 wake surf boats has already done the damage. This is a typical boat, not a wake surf boat. This same bottom stretch of lake is not impacted by traditional activities such as water skiing, tubing, jet skiing, or cruising. It takes a highly sophisticated and expensive piece of machinery to create a wake large enough to surf. And the wake surfing boats are getting bigger and more powerful with each passing year.
With world-class wakes and waves, the G25 Paragon continues to be the pinnacle of perfection. Let's go check out what it has to offer for 2023. The G25 Paragon comes in at 25 feet in length, is 102 inches wide, weighs 7,400 pounds, has seating for up to 19 people, has an integrated subfloor factory ballast of 2,200 pounds, has an additional supplemental ballast option of 1,450 pounds, for a grand total of 3,650 pounds of factory ballast, so you get amazing wakes and waves all at the touch of a button.
Wake surfing boats also carry a hidden threat: transfer of invasive species in their ballast water. The ballast systems can hold hundreds of gallons of lake water. These systems are nearly impossible to inspect. They do not drain or dry completely, and they are extremely difficult to clean and decontaminate. This creates the perfect environment for the transfer of aquatic invasive species from lake to lake. As wake surfing proliferates on Wisconsin lakes, its negative impacts are now starting to take a toll on one of our most significant natural resources. We urge citizens and elected officials to take action now. One step would be to protect our lakes from aquatic invasive species and damaging wakes by placing a restriction that prohibits watercraft from artificially enhancing a wake through the use of ballast systems, design features, operational procedures, or any other means on all Wisconsin lakes. The Wisconsin DNR is encouraging local municipalities and lake districts to address this issue as they see best fit for their local needs. As a result, a number of local governmental units around the state have now enacted ordinances that prohibit wake-enhanced sports. The local governmental unit that regulates your lakes has this power. Please join us in this effort to protect our inland lakes and rivers in Wisconsin and beyond.
Well, that's compelling.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Alger, for putting that up. So this paints a very desperate picture, unfortunately. In 2023, the Michigan Department of Natural Resources published Fisheries Report number 37, in which that was also attached to your packet. But in summary, they've identified not only the deleterious effects that I talked about earlier, but also ways that we can possibly avoid much of the poor effects, and that would be operation of wake boats in the loaded mode, at least 500 feet from shore in docks, operation of the wake boats in at least 15 feet of water, and proper draining of the ballast before and after launching at any lake. The report references studies from other states and regulations of wake boats with various criteria. Some areas are going with even 1,000 feet of isolation. I don't think that's appropriate here. But we do have a map that's been prepared by one of our board members that was attached to your packet. I also have larger copies of that map that I can certainly distribute. Protocol, right? Like 10 copies there. There's a slight bit of distortion just due to the way it printed. The PDF document got printed out. But what we've done is we've shown areas that are 500 feet from shore, and then drew what we call a wake boat area that is also at least 15 to 20 feet in depth. I think that map reference is 20 feet, but we'd be very happy with a 15-foot regulation. The resulting area on that map is approximately 70 acres. So it's, in real rough terms, almost a half mile by a quarter mile area And I know that that could possibly get quite crowded, especially during busy weekends, because Silver Lake does get to be quite crowded because it's so close to town. But the recommendations are, I think, necessary in order to help preserve Silver Lake in its current state. I spoke with the principal author of the study, and he told me that these recommendations were a balance to not be overly restrictive or under-restrictive to where wake boats should operate in their loaded mode, and that many other lake associations have requested larger isolation distances and water depths for operation in the loaded mode on their lakes. But therefore, it's the recommendation of Silver Lake Improvement Association that Grand Traverse County adopt an ordinance perhaps similar to ordinance number 2 that would limit the use of wake boats in loaded mode at least 500 feet from shore and in water depths of at least 15 feet of water. So with that, I'm open to any questions you might have, and perhaps you can help educate me on what the next steps might be. I realize you're not going to vote on it today. That's completely appropriate. I'm sure you want to discuss it more, but we'd like to work with the county to try to bring something to fruition.
So how much growth have you had on Eurasian milfoil? You said you had 5 acres to begin with. What do you at now?
Well, I think when we first started treating it, we had about 60 acres, and we were able to bring it down to about 5 acres, and then last spring's survey showed that we had 40 acres of milfoil, so it really exploded. And part of it could be the more mild temperatures that we have. We didn't get as much winter kill that you would normally get with lower, thinner ice conditions. But also, Eurasian milfoil is one of those plants that you break it off and it just immediately will root. Any broken pieces will reroot themselves and spread.
Who do you guys use to treat it? Do you guys use PLM, or who's your...
We use Restorative Lake Sciences, I believe. Isn't that, Scott?
Restorative Lake Sciences, PLM PLM is the company that we use that applies the herbicides.
Yep.
They're all approved by the DNR.
How many times a year do you treat?
Twice. We do it once in the spring before the 4th of July, and then we do another survey in the fall. And at that point in time, we make a decision as to whether or not we treat at that time or let it.
You still have growth on that, so you think that has something to do with the boating part anyway? Yeah.
It could definitely have something to do with it, because like we say, we're seeing an awful lot of wake boats that are operating in shallow waters. They are, we get a lot of complaints from a lot of the residents around the lake about, what they're doing to their shoreline, but also what it's doing to the bottom of the lake, which I found out when I was reading the DNR report that was put together in '23. So it's a major concern. I mean, when the plants break, like I said, one wake boat can create thousands of plants in just one pass.
Could you introduce yourself for the folks?
My name is Bradley Ogden. I'm also with the SLIA board, and I am in charge of the environmental control on Silver Lake.
Thanks, Brad. Any other question? Commissioner Jewett?
Yeah, Tim, thanks for presenting today. First of all, I've had, I don't know, probably 10, 12 people reach out to me since they've seen this here and stuff, and some of them are saying that Silver Lake has its own board or something, has a board of members or an association or something like that.
Yes, the
I mean,
Lake Association.
different people
has a
use
board.
different terms, but a lake board or something like that?
Correct.
And a couple of them said that they've been wanting to talk to you guys about this and see if it's something you guys can work out together and keep it there, but they said they've been unsuccessful over the last year of anybody reaching back to them. I'm just wondering, has conversations been going on with this lake board?
Yeah, we've started discussing this, I think, last July at our board meetings. We brought it up to our general membership in our August annual meeting, and there was some good, healthy discussion about wake boats on the lake. I'm not aware of anyone reaching out to the board wanting further discussion of it, other than what we've done already. And because of what we're doing here, we have an email that's going to go out to all of our riparian owners around the lake that we have contact with, to discuss what's going on, what we're looking at, and what we're proposing.
Okay. I know 3 in particular said that they've been wanting to talk to you guys. They've reached out and said they've had no success in any communication coming back. But they would like to, everybody said the same thing, but these 3 specifically said they would like to talk to the Lake Board or the Lake Association, whatever you guys call it, because each person called it something different. But anyway, and see if the people that live around Silver Lake and this board can come to some kind of agreement without, more ordinances or more rules or more laws and more restrictions and everything like that. So I was just wondering, based on those conversations, if these conversations have been happening, and if not, somebody, I guess, needs to grab the bull by the horns a little bit more and initiate these conversations a little bit more. So
I'll speak with our president, Ken Kaufman. Unfortunately, he couldn't attend today.
Okay.
And I'll see if anyone has been reaching out to him.
Okay.
And we'll see where it can go. Obviously, something like this is difficult from an enforcement standpoint. If the Marine Division of the Sheriff's Department is out there, then they can give cautionary warnings, to people and say, hey, look, you're really supposed to be up in this area or whatnot. But without some form of regulation in place, there's really nothing other than voluntary cooperation to keep people from running their wake boats in loaded mode in a safer area of the lake.
And Silver Lake is an all-sports lake, if I remember right, isn't it?
It most certainly is,
Yeah.
but it's also got very unique geometry, and that map that I passed around distorts it a little bit because of the way it printed out, but we're very long and narrow. We're 3 miles long, and we're only a 600-acre lake, so that makes us, on the average, less than a third of a mile wide. So we have a lot of shoreline, and it's in a very narrow in certain areas and very shallow in certain areas as well.
Well, again, I appreciate you presenting. I'm not sure, based on kind of some of the things we've seen today, if we can do anything or not, but obviously we'll seek legal counsel to look into that and see what we are allowed to do or not do, so.
Commissioner Walter?
Just a couple questions for clarification as we try to learn a little bit more about this. I appreciate you being here. I learned a lot. One question is, what is your estimation of the number of wakeboarders that live on the lake versus the ones who may come in, like you said, proximity to Traverse City? There's a lot of use of Silver Lake by the public outside of the homeowners, and those who may rent or whatever are using the space. I'm just trying to get a sense of like education and awareness. How many people are coming from outside of the lake versus those homeowners to wake boat in particular?
It's quite a mix, of course. If I had to estimate, I'd say there's probably maybe 45 to 50 wake boats that are residents on the lake have wake boats. They're very popular for obvious reasons. They're a lot of fun. And then we also get a lot of trials from Action Water Sports, Grand Bay Marine, Wallstrom's, and Irish, because we're the closest lake to them. If they want to show somebody how the boat works, where are they going to take it? They're going to take it close by, and that's fine. They're always very courteous on the ramp. They get in, get out real fast. But at the same time, we get a lot of use, and especially on weekends, 4th of July weekend, there's not a parking spot at the launch at all. It just fills up, so it varies from week to week, but we do get a lot of people from the surrounding area that do launch their boats in Silver.
And my other question, thank you for that context, is has there already been education done with homeowners and with you mentioned some of the companies that often bring the wake boats in, what's the education component like at this point about the issue?
Very fair question, thank you. What we've done is we have brought it up to our membership at our annual meeting last August, And that's when, anyone that's a member, I think we've got 160 members around the lake that we invite to the meeting. Not everyone obviously can always attend, but we try to bring that up. We also have a Gmail account that we send periodic notices on things out to our association members. And our president has approached the marinas. I don't recall exactly how much success he's had. I know he's had discussions with all of the marinas, and we'd like to bring the marinas along with us on this endeavor in order that they'll be able to, hey, if they're going to do a demo, say, hey, look, guys, we need to stay in deeper section of the water. We need to stay further away from shore because of our waves and whatnot. And I think it's a win-win for everybody when we all cooperate and communicate in that way.
Commissioner Flynn.
Do you have a plan, thank you very much for being here, but do you have a plan on how to communicate, especially to visitors of the lake, of where they can be?
Yes, we do.
When they're on their way?
At our launch, we have a sign that welcomes everybody. It's put up by the Silver Lake Improvement Association. We have a sign that talks about some basic boating courtesy things and whatnot, and we intend to modify that sign to include, our map that would show, the preferred wake boat loaded area of the map of the lake. That's probably the best way because it's impractical to just have somebody posted at the launch, waiting for people to come. Because a lot of times when people are launching their boats, there's a couple people walking around doing this, that, and the other thing, and we found that we get pretty good response to the sign that we do have there. So people are reading it. They've got a way to see the information. And we also have a brochure, Silver Lake Improvement Association brochure that talks about different things about the lake. Basically, many of the same things that are on the sign that we make it available to all of our members, and I'm pretty sure that I know that we've made it available to Garfield and Blair Townships, and then also to the marinas. We've tried to drop them off, but we haven't revised that brochure to illustrate the wake boat area until we get a little further along in the process here. So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Walter.
Yeah, this is all about Silver Lake, but we have other lakes in the county. I just wondered if you could shed light on any other conversations you've had with other Grand Traverse County in particular.
Certainly.
Lake associations. So, the more that's happening at once, the better for education and prevention. And then
Certainly. We've reached out to other lake associations and had discussions with, pretty sure, Rennie, Spider, Long Lake. In fact, we have a representative from Long Lake here today from their board. We have reached out to Green and Duck Lake Association down in Interlaken, and we'd be more than willing to reach out to all lake associations in the county.
Commissioner Andrews.
Thank you. I think it's fair to say that we all share your interest in keeping our lakes healthy and safe, and as they become more popular in our growing community and with more and more tourism, that is obviously an imminent concern for us. I have some concern about our jurisdiction, given that I understand Part 801 of the NREPA gives the Department of Natural Resources primary jurisdiction over lakes, and obviously this is an issue of potential county-wide and statewide concern, or regional. Wisconsin is obviously also concerned. I would note for your information that we just passed on our consent agenda today a resolution of support for a Senate bill affecting lake levels. As I understand it, and I'm sure our attorney will help us understand it, we may have to initiate local support with a resolution, a public hearing, and some other processes. But there is a bill pending in Michigan, House Bill 5532, as you're aware. In the interim, if we're unable to take direct action for Silver Lake, drafting a resolution of support is definitely a way we can use our voice to support the needs, not just of Silver, but also Long Lake, Rennie Lake, Spider Lake, and any other lake to amplify your voice. So I would encourage look at that example that we just adopted today. It's very comprehensive. I think it's a compelling message. It's basically like testifying in Lansing in support of statewide legislation, and urge you to present something like that to us for consideration, irrespective of what we're doing.
It's a very great idea. I appreciate that, and we're willing to follow up with that. It's a good idea to express support, particularly when there's potential legislation that could go much wider than just Silver Lake and the entire state. One cautionary term, though, is that I've been involved with state-level regulations and bills throughout my career, and by and large, most bills that are proposed at the state level don't make it past committee, and the ones that do sometimes die at the end of the calendar year. So.
Do you have a sense of why the DNR or the Natural Resources Commission hasn't taken up this rule as an obligation?
I don't know, but I thought it was a very positive note that the Fisheries Division did take up the cause and put that report out, and that may just be the first step in the state's desire to do something.
Commissioner Nelson.
I was on the line of Commissioner Andrews. I was going to ask the same question. I think the DNR picking this up, they're probably on that trail. So let's hope, but maybe some follow-up with the state reps would be appropriate too. The other question I had is, have you had any conversations with the sheriff or the Marine Division on enforcement and how that looks from their side to make it a workable ordinance or statute,
We
whichever it
have,
becomes?
and they said that they would work with us on this, again, along the lines of first cooperation, just going up and saying, hey, look, you're not really supposed to be here. Why don't you try over in this area? We've got a regulation, but I don't want to write you a ticket for it. And that's been very effective when we see, for instance, like jet skis coming too close to swimmers or following boats too closely or things like that, or reckless behavior. And then occasionally they do have to write tickets when it happens over and over again. And our conversations with the sheriff's office said that they would work with us on that.
Okay, even when it comes to the language and the law, maybe that would be helpful because these are the guys that are going to have to enforce it, and how the boater knows what's the 500-foot line or whatever. But
Right.
we don't have to discuss it here. I just
Yes.
hope that we don't put them in a situation where it's a hard thing to enforce or it's hard for the boaters to understand. I think a lot of the boaters are going to want to follow the law, but they need to know where that boundary is and if there's a clear way, and that makes the law enforcement's jobs easier too. So.
Yeah, and we've even talked about, well, geez, do we put buoys in the lake? Well, then you put more buoys in the lake, then you put more impediments in there that can tangle up, the surfers, the skiers, the fishermen.
Right.
You don't want to do too much. It's a very delicate balance to get it through.
Thank you.
So I had a question. Do you happen to know how many lakes in Grand Traverse County would be affected by this ordinance, or how many of them are a sufficient size for wakeboarding?
I tallied it up. Let me see if I got it in my notes. 4 or 5 major lakes probably, but I wrote down a list of them. Got potentially 1, 2, 3. Total of 19. There are 19 lakes in Grand Traverse County. That's including part of Elk Lake and part of Skegamog Lake. There's some that are too shallow to operate wake boats in anyways, like Dubonnet and Bass Lake. But there are other lakes that certainly could be very susceptible to wake boats.
Okay. Do you know how many different townships that the ordinance would affect, where those lakes are?
I don't.
Okay. That's something I would be curious about when we're adjusting an ordinance. It's going to affect, you said, probably 5 or 6 lakes where it's
Primarily, yeah.
primarily in which townships contain those lakes. And I guess when we're talking about a countywide ordinance, give them an opportunity to weigh in on the ordinance. I would like to hear from the Marine Division at the Sheriff's Department on, their thoughts on an ordinance, anything we can do to make it more enforceable, what might be pointless to try to control, what's reasonable. I don't know if environmental health would want to weigh in, but I know they deal with some of the lakes issues as well. But I was going to ask our legal counsel, Matt, what would the process be for adopting this ordinance? I know you have to review it for legality. The state of Michigan allows counties to do certain things. We don't have a blank slate. We can't just legislate whatever we want. We can only do those things which the state constitution and legislation says we can do. So if we can do it, this could be an edit to that ordinance we already have, or perhaps it's standalone ordinance. That's something yet to be seen. But for an ordinance to pass, we have to have a public hearing. Could you enlighten the public on that?
I'd suggest, as part of our analysis of whether or not we can do this, we include the process.
Okay.
If we could do it, but you've generally summarized it accurately.
Great. Any more commissioner questions? Rick, Tim, anything to add?
No, that's all that I have. Thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks for being here. All right, so we'll look forward to future agenda having some questions answered. Move on to item 11, which is appointments. Mr. Administrator, do we have the list?
I do, and I believe Ms. Emery is going to join us.
Hey, there she is.
Well,
right on cue.
It's on purpose.
It's on purpose.
So Lisa has provided me with information that May 1st, I'm sorry, wrong information. Northern Lakes Community Mental Health, DHHS, and Veterans have openings. She intended to have that to you on April 3rd. With that, Tia.
Ad hoc to hold interviews.
Okay.
Yeah, use the microphone.
Could you repeat that list, please?
Northern Lakes, DHHS, and Veterans.
And for the folks at home, introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Lisa Emery with administration.
Thanks, Lisa. All right, so do you want to appoint this today versus April? Is that what you're thinking?
So my concern, and the reason for maybe getting ahead of the skis on this, so to speak, is that the DHHS board only has 3 members, and with an immediate resignation effective immediately, we have only 2 board members, and should one be sick or absent, there's no quorum. So I did want to have a conversation sooner and maybe keep that moving along. And so, yes, if the will of the board is that we move that, keep it moving, that would be appreciated.
All right. Commissioner Jewett offered he'd like to be on that committee. Commissioner Nelson, BPW is the other one. Is that one we're just letting sit because of?
So we actually did get a memo from our attorney, or at least an email discussing that issue, and I actually asked for it to be on today's agenda, whether this board is willing to waive the privilege on that memo so that we can share it, discuss it publicly and share it with BPW and let them discuss it publicly. And don't want to put words in our lawyer's mouth, but he said that's fine, that's probably a good idea. So
No danger there, so.
that would be a separate motion under this item.
Well, tell you what, go ahead and make that motion.
I move that we waive the attorney-client privilege with respect to the information provided by our attorney in a March 6th email regarding the makeup of the BPW board.
Second.
Okay, motion by Andrews, support by Flynn. Discussion. Matt, anything to add to that?
I have no concerns with the board waiving the privilege.
Okay. Other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Flynn, Andrews and Flynn. All right, so the BPW memo is now public, and can you summarize it?
Sure. So anticipating this, I put it onto our letterhead. I've indicated that the privilege was waived today. We will send that out for circulation. But basically, the way that the statute reads, it creates a concern that because our population has changed, we're no longer able to keep the same number of members on the BPW committee. It suggests some ways to deal with that, potentially through attrition and/or changing the number and/or requesting a AG opinion on whether or not the language means what it says. The legislative intent seems to be a little different than the language that got its way into the statute. So it's a bit of a concern.
My question on the BPW issue was, so with the Board of Commissioners, every time there's an election, it's a new Board of Commissioners. It's a new board. But with the BPW board, it's not that way. It's not a new board. So if the board is already established under state statute with a certain number of members, it is the membership, the positions are there. The members change, the positions don't. So
Yeah, I was going to clarify, the members do change it.
Right.
The different
But
supervisors
it's always the
of
same board.
townships, yeah.
Because it's already been established. So it would seem like the positions would stay the same if we were reestablishing the board, like the Board of Commissioners is reestablished on a routine basis. Then you'd go with the number of members prescribed in the law. But since it's already there, just food for thought.
I don't disagree with that. I think that it is, the language in the statute is just creates a question.
Yeah.
So were you recommending we request the Attorney General to opine?
That's one suggestion. I think that that's appropriate here, especially if I think there's no doubt that you can reduce the number. I think if you want to maintain the current number, it's worth seeking an AG opinion, which you do through your local state representative, to see if we can get an answer from the AG that we could then, it's not the same as a force of law or case law, but we could rely on it in maintaining the number.
Okay, so is that something the board would vote to do? So we need a motion to seek an AG opinion on the membership of our BPW.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Walter, supported by Seifert. To reach out through our state representative to request an AG opinion on membership of the our BPW board. Mr. Alger, does that make sense?
Yes.
Further discussion, questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, so that'll bring us back to ad hoc committee for pavilions, veterans, and Northern Lakes Community Mental Health. I've got one volunteer who, Commissioner Andrews and Nelson.
Sure.
All right.
I do believe there was an ad hoc for the handle the Veterans Affairs that did not close.
Oh, was there already?
Yes,
Yes,
it
that
was
is
Jewett,
correct.
Seifert, and myself.
Okay,
And
well,
we
let's,
didn't
You're welcome to continue.
close
we
the
did
ad
not have
hoc
enough
because we did
applicants.
still have an opening available.
Yep.
So I think,
Seifert. All right, do you want to just use that ad hoc and add,
no, I was just saying,
More
I
to
mean,
it, or-
if,
okay.
just say for veterans, I wouldn't
Happy to have
volunteer
them
in for
go on
CMH or.
or we can have two ad hocs, and that's fine too.
Well, I was going to say, the reason that we continued on, we didn't have enough applicants to fill the spot at the time. So, I mean, if we want to dissolve that ad hoc and take it on with here, I'm fine with that. That was myself, Commissioner Flynn, and Commissioner Seifert. Yeah.
That's fine with me as well, I just didn't want to have two.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have any preference.
All right, we'll close the old ad hoc and just use the new one of Jewett, Andrews, and Nelson. All right, so I will move to create that ad hoc for the purpose of interviewing applicants for Veterans Affairs, Pavilions, DHHS, and Northern Lakes Community Mental Health. Is there a second?
So moved.
I
second,
moved
I
it,
mean,
so.
second, yeah.
Motion by Henschel, support by Jewett. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
So there's one, I have one more question before we move off this agenda item.
Okay, well, I'll just say Jewett will be the initial chair. You can choose a different if you choose. And Lisa, you know what to do. All right, Commissioner Andrews?
Thank you. So in January, I believe, we adopted amendments to our appointments process, our rules for board appointments. And one of the things that we discussed was trying to get training and onboarding within the first 90 days of new appointees' terms. I know we appointed a number of new appointees in December. We are now approaching 90 days, and I just wanted to see if we could get an update on that.
Good question.
Got that training up yet.
The only training that we currently have is through Cole Stoker, and they provide that training for elected officials, and we can have that reduced to a packet of information and provide that to
Well-
new appointees, and we can set that through administration.
The MSU Extension also has some documents available. We could make those available to our appointees. At a minimum, they could review those documents and get a better understanding and reach out to them and ask them if you have questions about how meetings work, how your appointment works, please reach out to the admin office.
We have a current packet that we provided to the Board of Commissioners for their initial onboarding. We will provide the same packet to those appointees and do just that.
Okay, anything else? All right, thank you, Lisa. All right, we'll move on to Commissioner Department reports. Commissioners? Commissioner Morris.
Northern Lake Community Mental Health Board of Directors and Committee of the Whole will be on Thursday at our Hall Street location. The Committee of the Whole meets at 12:30 and the Board of Directors meets at 2:15. Public is welcome and actually encouraged.
Any other Commissioner Department reports?
I'll just say I did share the Generations Ahead annual report with all the commissioners, as the previous board did award ARPA funds to this organization. So it's really great to see what actually the ARPA dollars are doing to help.
Okay. The airport has launched the TVC 5K for the year. I'm looking for the date.
May 18th.
May 18th, thank you. So that's a fun one. I've done it a couple times. You get to go out and run. You can walk too. It's a 5K out on the runway. It's kind of a neat view of the airport. You don't get very often.
It's a fundraiser for Wings of Mercy, correct? Which helps to
Yes.
raise money to fly the...
Yeah, so Wings of Mercy is a charitable organization that if someone has a medical emergency, needs to travel, medical situation, and they don't have the means to do so, they will work to provide and support means to travel for medical reasons.
How long does that shut the airport down for on that day?
A few hours. It's Saturday morning. Not a lot of flights during that time period. They choose a time period. There's not a lot of flights. So, but I know I had the same thought too because of the controversy with the Cherry Festival Air Show and times of day, and I think anyone who's been following it, the Blue Angels only fly at a certain time of day because of the position of the sun, the weather conditions. They always fly in that afternoon slot, which is very busy for the airport, and that's been a source of contention with the airport administration and the airlines and having to move a lot of flights because we've gotten so much busier than we have been in past years.
I wasn't really going there, but I was just wondering how long it shut
No,
down.
I mean,
so.
it's valid. The community's talking about it. We should not hide it. There's some problems to solve, and we're working on it. Be very candid. I am supportive of the Blue Angels flying in Traverse City every 2 to 3 years in perpetuity, and I know it's going to have to move some flights and be inconvenience, but I believe I have a lot of, all my employees love the air show. All of us that are doing the work and lifting the load for the tourists that are in town, we like the air show. We like to watch it. It's something we can go do. It doesn't cost a lot of money, so I think it's something for the locals that we should do if we can. Mr. Administrator.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met as a dispute resolution committee as empowered by the Northern Lakes Community Mental Health agreement that we have with 5 other counties. We had 5 county administrators present. We did 2 things. We created the chair and vice chair position as required by the enabling agreement. I will be the chair again for that committee, and Paul Campo from Crawford County will be the vice chair. Also present was Northern Michigan Regional Entity CEO Eric Kurtz and Northern Lakes CEO Brian Martinez. New county administrator from Missaukee County, Jessica Nielsen. She was the former elected clerk, now the county administrator. The purpose of the meeting was to take up a request from a commissioner in Roscommon County challenging essentially the enabling agreement requiring that a county commissioner fills one of their minimum of two spots in the Northern Lake Community Mental Health Authority. It's described by statute. It was actually a Northern Lakes issue that went to the Michigan legislature to change the law to allow for more than 12 appointees to that board. The concept is there's more than 5 or more than 4 counties being represented by the authority. Each county is allowed to have a commissioner assigned to the board. So in order to do that, the number went from 12 to 16. So this commissioner, for whatever reason, does not want to be on the board, and they don't have to be. The issue is that the county representation goes from 2 to 1 because that position is designated for a county commissioner. We've had legal review of this by Fraser Triblock and Cole Stoker, and those opinions are the same. So the board, the Dispute Resolution Committee heard the arguments, reviewed the legal analysis, and they decided that they would not open the enabling agreement to consider the request of Roscommon County. You will be getting that in written form from me. I need to have basically the content approved in form, and then that will be sent out to all boards within the authority. Any questions about that?
No, but it's out of our hands, it's out of Northern Lake's hands, it's state law, so.
Yeah.
They can try to change it all they want, but they got to go through the governor.
Yeah, yes, we had significant diligence applied to this process, and the law has not changed.
Just a clarifying question. How many commissioners are there in Roscommon County?
I don't know that. I'm going to assume 7.
There's not any 2 that want to be assigned to the
Well,
CMH board?
One commissioner, one non-commissioner is what they need.
Not one commissioner.
So there's not a single commissioner in Roscommon County who wants to be on the CMH board? I'm just trying to understand, is that what we're...
That's correct.
Yeah.
As I understand it, it's not a sought-out position.
Generally true.
It is, to be
It's a heavy-
fair, a lot of work.
It's a big lift.
You travel to 6 counties, and
Big job.
it's a big job.
There's 5.
It is a big job, and when you listen to the professionals, we also had an update by the Northern Lake CMH executive and NMRE executive and the board chair of the NMRE. When you listen to them talk about the ins and outs of Medicaid dollars, waivers, my choice, this, that, the other thing, it's easy to just swim. And it takes time and patience to understand the complexity that they are experiencing in administrating that program. So I don't doubt that there could be resistance to be part of that.
Remind us how long those meetings are, Commissioner?
It depends on the day. They start generally either noon or 12:30, and I think our latest has gone to 5:45.
4 or 5 hour meetings.
And how big are the packets?
Plus travel.
How big are the packets?
Oh, they're big.
Yeah, hundreds of pages.
As we have seen, it's an important job, and it needs to be done correctly. So the issue was, from the Roscommon County Commissioner's perspective, is he felt that the undersheriff would be a better suited person to sit on that committee, and he can. He just has to be an appointed a position. They still lose their position. And it's that they don't lose it. It remains vacant until they appoint a commissioner. Any other questions about that? We're excited to have it in place. We're ready to handle any other disputes that come our way, and I think we expect some.
Okay. Other commission or department reports? We'll jump at once. All right. Then we'll move to second public comment. If anyone would like to address the board, now is your opportunity to approach the podium. Good morning.
My name is Jim Stanley. I work for Action Water Sports. We are not here to publicly dispute with what the Silver Lake Improvement Association is. Frankly, we welcome working with them to create some better safety and compromise as to how the lake can be preserved and utilized and enjoyed by everybody. So we don't have an official company stance, but we welcome to work with them to help a resolution instead of legislate. We want to educate. That's our position.
What was your company again, Jim?
Action Water Sports.
Action Water Sports. Do you rent these boats or just sell them?
We sell them.
Sell, okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Jim. Good morning.
Good morning. My name, my name is Jeff Heidloff. I've been a 16-year resident and homeowner on Silver Lake. I am also on the Silver Lake Improvement Association board as a safety committee officer. We've had many board meetings talking about this issue. I feel a little different than the rest of the board from the standpoint that, similar to what Mr. Stanley said, education versus legislation. And I think although there is some things that need to be changed or modified in regards to how boating is done on Silver Lake, the way it's proposed and the legislation proposed for the state legislation and what's being proposed here, I don't think is the proper way. I also don't think our members have been communicated with properly to really have general discussions with our membership, and the Silver Lake Improvement Association is not the governing body of Silver Lake. And so I think we need to keep that in consideration and know what the lake owners and the homeowners and the riparian rights and the taxpayers have to say on this issue as we move forward.
Thank you, Jeff. Anybody else this morning? Seeing none, we'll move on to notices. We have a meeting next week.
We do not.
Hey, we get a week off. All right. About time. Notices?
We don't have a meeting next week. Our next meeting is April 3rd. We will have the agenda setting today following this meeting because in large part, most of our staff will not be present for the next week to 10 days.
Okay. Any other notices? All right. Seeing none, we'll go, next we're at our closed session. So we've got request for a closed session 15A for strategy and negotiation sessions connected with the negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement if either negotiating party requests a closed hearing as permitted by MCL 15.2681C, and 15B to discuss a written attorney-client privileged legal opinion from the county's civil counsel as permitted by MCL 15.2681H.
So moved.
Moved by
Support.
Jewett,
At
supported by
11:16.
Nelson. Jewett, Nelson.
35 cents.
Any further discussion on the motion? We have a roll call vote, please.
McAllister?
Aye.
Jewett?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Andrews? Yes. Walter?
Yes.
Seifert?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes, motion carries. We're in closed session. Thank you.
never heard that till about 3 years ago. Very hard.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we come out of closed session at 12:15 PM.
Support.
Motion by Jewett, support by Nelson. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. We're in open session. When you're ready, Mr. Radford.
Two proposed motions, Chair. The first is a motion to approve the ratified agreement with the COAM Road Sergeants Unit and authorize the board chair to sign the successor collective bargaining agreement upon approval as to form by the county's Labor Council.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Flynn, supported by McAllister. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries.
And the second is,
Can we wait for just 1 second? I just want to, Mr. Zart is being spun up. It's not working.
Who?
He's his attorney. Pace's counsel.
Okay.
Go ahead. Thank you.
second proposed motion is a motion to reject the current two-phase proposal from PACE and authorize Commissioner Andrews and Chair Henschel to serve as a work group with county administration to engage with PACE and pavilions to discuss dispute resolution options and express the board's support for future operations of PACE.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Jewett, supported by Seifert. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And with that, is there anything further?
From an administrative perspective, you have PACE representation here. I don't know if they have.
We'll look forward to engaging.
Yep, look forward to engaging. I don't think we have any questions. All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.